Hi, Sean. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this testimonial. Very nice to see you again. So, what was the context in Walsall that led you to engage with TVI?
So, from our perspective, Tim, and I'm sure you were aware at the time, Walsall had a £20 million budget gap. We'd just got past the summer. We were struggling with ideas around how we might solve that. So we were basically doing a bit of a round robin with member workshops and officer workshops to try and deliver that. But a colleague basically just suggested that TVI could probably support on some digital opportunities. So we got in touch and arranged a workshop and just hopefully you could support us deliver some of the savings to contribute towards that gap.
And what were you hoping the work with TVI would achieve? Apart from savings, obviously.
Well, definitely. I mean, for us, it was basically contribute towards that 20 million. 10 or 20%, anything around that value would be really, really beneficial to us at the time. But also, I think it's just getting that engagement from services to actually look at the technology opportunities available, especially in the adults and children's areas that we struggle to engage in with ourselves and the resource capacity that we got. And then also it's that sort of customer satisfaction from the different options available, including digital. So it was basically savings plus hopefully an improved process from a customer and a staff perspective.
And what was it about TVI's offer that made you feel we could help you achieve that?
Well, it was a really well laid out offer. I think it was very logical from our perspective around things that just make sense. The workshop was really well received at Walsall, sort of engaging with all the directors and executive directors at the time to go through those opportunities and then work out how deliverable they are, how quickly we might be able to deliver those, what resources we've got available and we might need support on. So that helped us just prioritise what we could deliver and what could then achieve against the next year's budget or possibly future years' budgets.
How did you find the fast track evaluation process? Because obviously once you've done the workshop, that's given you a suite of ideas to look at. You've whittled it down to fast track validation, which is the business case process. What worked particularly well, and what's particularly valuable that process, and is there anything you would improve?
I think for us, definitely going through the process and identifying what would be a priority for us. So we identified some we probably made some progress on already ourselves, but there were some key ones that we hadn't touched ourselves, and we could deliver quite quickly, especially with TVI support. So for us, it was basically getting that priority list, but also then comparing against what we're already delivering in the services that are non-technology related. So again, just being realistic around that. The workshops were really brilliant. And again, I think for us, it was basically you being able to provide examples of we're working with this council, we're looking at doing this with this council's delivered this already by implementing this opportunity. So I think that all really supported and got sort of engagement from our directors group. And again, I think what really helped in our case, Tim, was those regular catch-ups that we had as a Walsall team and TVI team, just going over what progress has been made, any blockers that we might have on the council side or your side from TVI's perspective, and just making sure we can unblock those and make sure we keep the progress moving.
Yeah, it was a really good one team type of approach, which worked very well together, which is great. And I'm just sort of to add to that. Because you, from memory, had lots of opportunities right across the board. It wasn't just concentrated in one directorate. So it's really good seeing, in particular, adults and children's, as you say, can be quite hard to convince on some of these things traditionally. But it's your team certainly weren't like that at all, which is great. So how did the process help you get buy-in and sort of confidence across stakeholders? What particularly was it about the process which helped that?
I think your knowledge of the opportunities, obviously going through the list and being able to articulate how you can deliver those and working with other councils really helped sort of get the buy-in of the directors group. And then when I approached CMT and the senior leadership to go through what the process is and how we're going to deliver those, they got real confidence from other directors basically chipping in to say, oh yeah, we're doing this opportunity in adults and this one in children's, and TVI are really good to work with. So I think that really helped from that perspective around just the knowledge that you had and the ability to talk through how we can work with the services to deliver the opportunities.
So for others looking at the digital blueprint model, of as ever, we will have approached quite a few people. Is there any particular advice you give them to maximise that value? Speed is the big thing I always say to people. Try and crunch through that process as quickly as possible. But have you got any other sort of big advice you would give?
I would just say, anyone that hasn't got any kind of process like this in place, undertake the workshop, go through the opportunities, work out which ones are relevant to you that you haven't already made progress on. I would recommend you pick several ones. There's no way, if you haven't done any of them, there's no way you can deliver all of those opportunities at the same time. You're going to have other stuff that you're committed to, whether it's savings or projects or growth, whatever else you've got on. So be realistic about what you can deliver, what resource you've got available internally, and what capacity they might need from TVI to support that. But be realistic, pick some quick wins. Like you say, it's that risk reward. How quickly can we deliver these opportunities? How much will they deliver? And just pick some key ones and just try and ensure delivery of those, and then pick some sort of medium longer term ones that you can phase in for years 2, 3, 4.
What we are finding is when we run the workshops, quite a lot of people say, I've got this sort of thing in my plan already, it's in my future forecast. But they're then using this model in particular in adults to say, well, actually, this gives me the structure and the logic to get to the numbers and work out how to implement that. Did you have a sort of similar experience with Walsall?
So I would say there's two things there, Tim. So one, like you say, sometimes there are ideas on the table, but to quantify them, it's quite difficult. So this gives us an approach to basically be able to quantify and work out, actually, we can put a number to this, so it is worth the investment that we need to put in it up front to achieve the saving. The other one was around engagement. So as we touched on earlier, I think adults and children's, internally we didn't have the capacity to support them. So actually, when we were trying to engage with them to look at these opportunities without TVI's involvement, it sort of just fell flat because we weren't able to put the project management support in to support the service in delivering them. So they fell flat before TVI came in, when TVI were there to explain how they can support the options that we were taking forward, and we prioritised specifically some adults and children's ones that enabled us to successfully drive them through. So for me, it's engagement as well as the sort of business case numbers quantification.
So what's changed then, or what do you expect to change as a result of the work we've done so far together?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, it's more use of digital across the piece. Definitely children's and adults, as I've said, they were basically not engaging in some of the digital opportunities, mainly not because they didn't want to, but because of resource capacity to support the services. Obviously, those services as well are dealing with a lot of pressures in service delivery, as well as we're having to put pressure on them now to deliver far more of the savings because they are putting the pressure on the council. So just that capacity basically enabled us to push those forward, and now we've delivered some of those savings. So we've got digital in those services, and they are now wanting to engage in more. What else can we deliver? What else is there available to us? What's the art of the possible in those areas? So for us, that's a really good positive move that we've got forward, and we've got more of a digital sort of perspective now from the whole council.
And how would you describe working with TVI or Triple Value Impact in a few words?
Key points for me were, A, it was a very sensible approach. B, you were very supportive throughout the process in helping us to identify what would be our priorities and then help us deliver them. And for us, we couldn't have delivered these without TVI support. So it was a collaborative approach, but we couldn't have done it without you.
Any advice you give anyone else considering this or starting something similar? What advice would you give other councils?
I think I've touched on most of this, but I'll just clarify again. I think I'd recommend work with TVI and definitely engage in that workshop to look at the opportunities, work out which ones are right for you, whether it's something you want to deliver on your own or you haven't got the capacity. The fast track validation was key for us, as in we needed to deliver quickly on them for the budget for the year ahead, and we had that gap there to deliver. So that was one thing, but also then the project management support to support our own capacity to make sure that we could get the business cases signed off and put into the MTFS moving forward, and then B, deliver them. So that was key for us. And again, just be, as I said, sort of be realistic on what savings you can select and deliver to supplement whatever you're already doing. And then effectively, I'd just say, as we touched on, I think the regular catch-ups between TVI and the organisation is key to just make sure you understand what's going on from both sides. You're working together at all times, and you can unblock any blockers that there might be or any barriers, so you can move forward and progress delivery.
Last question then. So if you had to sum up your experience in one sentence, what would you say?
Well, for me, it was a very positive, collaborative experience. One which we couldn't have delivered without TVI supporting and driving the opportunities with us. So thank you very much, Tim, for what TVI have done for us at Walsall.